Hello and welcome to the TCS podcast, where we're dedicated to helping you achieve extraordinary growth and success by supplying you with the tools, resources, and support necessary to not only build profitable businesses, but to create lasting impact on your families, companies, and communities. I'm Eric Guy, Director of Learning and Development here at TCS. Joining me today is one of our TCS members, Mr. Tim Evans. He's the owner of Elite Paving. He's got a great story. I think he's got a lot of good stuff to share with the community. So thanks for being on, Tim. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah. So just a quick icebreaker here, Tim. What's one thing people might be surprised to learn about you?
I would say I'm not as hard as what I might come off to be. I'm on the back end, I'm a little soft. I think that would kind of throw people for a loop if they know me personally,
Gotcha.
So,
Well, give us a little background on Elite. I mean, we've especially since if some of the members are watching this too, what's the background? How'd you get started? Why would you get into paving?
right. Yeah, good question, So when I was probably 14, 15, a local company that's still around today, I worked for them in the summers, between school. So that's kind of what got me into the whole business. When I graduated high school, I went out on my own. I started sealing out of a
Right out of high school?
right out of high school. Yep.
Wow.
I did go to Parkland or college for about a month, and said that's not for me, and went right back to the blacktop. And yeah, I started out of a SUV with buckets of sealer, in the back. And actually, when I was working for that local company, I'd get off work with them, then I'd go knock doors, with buckets of sealer and sealing driveways. Then it just kind of progressed from there. My mom helped me a few years later, invest in a seal rig, and then a year later after that, then I got my equipment and just kind of took off from there. So that's kind of short story to a long one.
So mom believed in you, huh?
She believed in me. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
And then you got what you have now. That's amazing. I didn't know that about your mom.
Yeah.
Kudos.
She and I did in between that span. I partnered with a few other companies for a year. Left that company and then partnered with another one, and then so I went through that whole thing, as well. That's really where I learned a lot of lessons, is those partnerships that I had early on.
And then what separates you from like your competition? Like why go and do it on your own?
Yeah, I would say we are very detail oriented, and we are very service based. That's something I learned with those other companies. That's what they really lacked. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not how I am as a person. So that's kind of what propelled me to, hey, I want to do it my own way. I want to serve the customer better. I want to produce, higher quality work. I want to give a good product. So that's definitely what makes us different than our competition around here. Is definitely that. Very service oriented and based, and very detail oriented.
I know it's been, you've had a lot of these times where you've been challenged and you've had to grow and things like that. What's a proud moment along that journey that you're proud of and feel, hey, like this was worth it?
Yeah, I would say just accomplishing the vision, that I had when I was 18, 19, to have all these guys working for it, to have crews, to have a beautiful building, office and shop. just accomplishing that vision, but then you run into the next problem, right? Like you got to create a new one, so but yeah, that was definitely a proud moment, but it's short-lived, so.
Well, we always talk about leadership here at TCS. What's were some of the hardest leadership lessons you had to learn early on?
I would say the willingness to be criticized, um, you know, from all aspects. That and the willingness to make tough decisions and make fast decisions and rolling with them one way or another, whether they're right or wrong, not dwelling on them, even if it was a bad decision, you just got to move on. That's definitely probably the biggest lesson I learned. You can't sit in your own shit, you got to get out. So that's without a doubt, that was probably the biggest leadership lesson that I've learned, and be an example, as you grow, and you're not so much in the field to be an example, is leading through, your voice, what I mean, or helping other people, be that leader to keep that culture,
What's a decision or a mistake that's shaped the way you lead today?
Decision or mistake. On the partnerships, for sure. I learned a lot of good things and a lot of bad things between those. One of the people weren't so ethical, and I really learned, man, if you just do the right thing, I mean, things go good for you, right? So yeah, the partnerships, but without a doubt, that's probably where I learned the most, all the way around, from operations to dealing with customers, taking care of people. I really learned that, if you screw up on a job, man, just own it and just take care of it. No one cares when you do it. No one's going to say anything whenever you do a good job, right? Maybe 1 out of 100. You do a bad job, they're going to make sure everyone knows. And yeah, and then even the bad, whenever your crew screw up, or if you make a mistake, whatever, if you own it and take care of it, that sometimes that leads into a long relationship with that person, even though that you screwed up. So, yeah, that's.
How do you invest in yourself as a leader now? Like, what are the things that you're doing to make yourself better? Obviously, you're part of our TCS inner circle, which I think that was a strategic move, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. So what are you doing now to make yourself a better leader?
Definitely things such as TCS. I will say that is probably the one of the best decisions I made for the company and myself, but always trying to, get better every day. So for instance, I try to make sure I'm reading something, whether it's leadership, whether it's, reading the pavement magazine, whatever it is, just trying to stay sharp and constantly develop every day. I think it's necessary, to keep your mind sharp and to keep growing. So yeah, I mean, every day, I'm reading something or multiple things, to stay sharp. Yeah.
How's your leadership that evolved as the company's grown? Like,
yeah, kind of what I said earlier. It's kind of a different leadership role compared to being out there every day, and being around your guys. You have to rely upon other people and make sure people are in the right positions, So for me, that's definitely been a new, I guess, a new leadership role for me, is trying to create new leaders, trying to keep, and it's a challenge. It ain't the same as, whenever people can physically see you out there busting your ass, and you're constantly around them every day, preaching, the values and the way we want to be. When you're not out there to constantly do that, you got to find other ways and other people to trickle that down. And yeah, that's definitely one of the things.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you that. Like, how is that not being out in the field? Like, what was that transition like for you? I know that's difficult for pretty much everybody, right?
Definitely. For me, I was glad to get out of I was just in there just because I had to be. But you lose control, right? So I like to be in control of everything. So that was a big thing, stepping back. Now other people are controlling it, and it's nerve-wracking almost, because you don't know every detail that's going on, right? And so yeah, I mean, that's probably what drives me the craziest, is not having the control constantly.
What's been the biggest pressure point recently as you continue to grow?
Getting the people in the right spots and finding the right people, and weeding out the ones that don't align, within the culture and the values. That's definitely our pressure point right now, is getting that lined out. It's definitely a process.
Is that is that any different? Like, if I ask you, what's the one area of the business you're currently trying to improve or scale more efficiently? Is that part of it, or is there something else?
That's a big part of it. Yeah. I mean, you got the systems and the processes and all that, right? But once again, you got to have the people that, can help implement that. You got to have the right people. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. That's definitely where we are, as a company.
Yeah.
Sure.
What are you doing? Because we hear a lot of, well, I hear a lot of especially outside of TCS. Like I don't have anybody to lead and this and that. And obviously our members are doing that, and they're finding people to lead. What are you doing while you're not in the field to create those leaders in the field?
Well, like TCS, pushing them to get on a TCS, to use those tools, to do that. We'll have meetings every once in a while, not as much as we should. But kind of going over some leadership things, and keeping them on track of, hey, this is how we want to be. This is how we do it. And making it easier for them guys by creating the systems and processes, like, hey, this is what we do, so they don't have to think about it. It's just kind of verbatim. Yeah, but TCS, I mean, for real, it definitely has been, without a doubt, like the biggest help to my guys, because they've been able to use those tools and hear from other people that are dealing with the same things that they are. I mean, that's crucial. I can sit and say, the same stuff that guy on TCS is saying, but they've been hearing it from me forever, right? So they could think I'm full of shit or not. And so yeah, I think they would say the same thing too, really.
Yeah, and so segueing into that, like what made you join TCS?
The wanting to get better. I mean, just point blank wanting to get better, I was at a crossroads, like, of, man, how do I get my guys trained? How do I get my guys to mentally think high? Just seeking, what can I do? What can I, provide for them to be able to develop, when you're a small business, like, it's hard for us to have, we're just a small business. It's hard to have, like, meetings, even in the morning, I mean, we're starting super early, everything like that. So, yeah, it gives them access to be able to get into that at any time.
What surprised you the most about TCS?
I Probably there's a lot of things. Your guys' willingness, like all of you guys have a lot going on. Like all the coaches, you can reach out to anybody at any time. The willingness of people to help other contractors, whether it's you coaches or whether it's just people within the system, taking the time, because we're all busy, right? But taking the time to actually help one another. That's honestly what I was surprised by. I've been on a lot of platforms, like, not specific to TCS, but you don't get that. You know what I mean? The personalization, for sure. I was kind of really mind blown, that you can reach out to you at any time and you guys are willing to jump on a call. Like, that's huge for a small business owner.
Yeah, it is. I would agree.
So
I would definitely agree with that one.
yeah, I mean, you guys do a great job.
Fire round.
Let's go.
All right, here we go. Okay, I think I got 5 or 6 here for you. So the best business book you've read recently?
The Magic of Thinking Big, I think, by Schwartz or something like that. Yeah, that's
okay.
probably
Good.
Yeah.
Like that. One routine you swear by?
Getting up early.
Ooh. A quote or phrase that keeps you moving?
Never quit.
Favorite piece of equipment to operate?
I don't really like to operate anymore, but if I did, I'd probably say the skidster. Probably.
Okay.
I'm best at that.
All right. One big goal you're chasing right now?
Get the business operating and running on its own. Getting the people in the right places and getting the right people.
All right. Last one. If you were to say, right, what's your superpower as a leader?
My ability to almost be a chameleon to deal with people, whether that's your guys or the sales, because you're going to talk to people differently depending on who they are. You can be rough with some people, you got to be soft with others. I think I do a halfway decent job at that, depending on the situation and the person.
Yeah, I usually ask at the end here, I usually ask for any further advice, but I want to ask you a more specific question just because of where you were at, how you got going, and things like that. What's advice you specifically have for contractors who want to grow but are stuck in the weeds?
Don't be scared to reach out for help, for guidance, and I would go back to never quit, right? I mean, you just can't give up, you got to keep seeking and seeking until you find. But yeah, I mean, I think people are, for whatever reason, they don't want to ask for guidance or help, and that's the fastest way to jumpstart to get past your hurdle, is that.
Very good point, Tim. Well, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate you coming on. Hopefully this inspires a couple people, either inside of TCS or outside of TCS, to get back on some coaches and continue to grow in their leadership ability and grow their companies. But thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, man. It was fun. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, that's a wrap for today for the TCS podcast. Until next time, keep leading, keep growing, and keep winning. We'll see you next time.